Cam Smith, the 7th best golfer in the world. Let's take a look at his move. From the setup to the takeaway, he starts to work his hands out slightly. Absolutely no concerns there. The only concerns I would have from that outside takeaway is if he worked his hands too vertical from there. However, he starts to work his hands around his body, and in this position here, the hands are in a relatively deep position. As he continues to work up to the top of the backswing, the hands continue to move around his body and get into an extremely good position here. One thing I really want to point out is Cam's club face orientation. Cam plays with a very closed club face, but the important thing to note is that his wrist angle is not in a bowed position. The reason why Cam's club face is closed is because he starts with a very strong grip. Cam could have a cup wrist and the club face would still look relatively closed. This is because of his grip. You can't just take certain elements and break them down specifically by themselves. You have to be able to combine all the movements that influence the club face orientation and then make a conclusion from there. So Cam's closed club face is coming from his grip at setup. Cam starts to shallow the club nicely in transition. And there's one thing to note that specifically happens with Cam that doesn't exactly happen with a lot of other tour players. You'll start to notice his head comes off this red line that I drew. That's working that club shaft into a more shallow position. A shallow position meaning this red line would get more horizontal. If it got more vertical, it would be called steepening. So Cam starts to shallow the club nicely into transition, and you get into a position there that looks very functional. As he approaches impact, what you'll notice is that this left shoulder gets quite high relative to the right. And now at impact, his shoulder plane is more on the vertical side. That's not to say it's good or bad, it's just something to take note that because of Cam's closed club face, by allowing that left shoulder to work higher than the right shoulder, he's able to add a little bit of loft to his golf club and to produce the golf shot that he wants to be able to see. You'll also notice that Cam doesn't have a lot of hip rotation compared to certain players. He's definitely on the other side of the spectrum of tour players who don't rotate their hips as significantly open. Cam isn't the person that likes to have technical thoughts with his golf swing. And because he's already been able to produce unbelievable golf with the golf swing that he has now, he just wants to refine his technique rather than changing it. His coach Grant Field recognizes that and has no interest in trying to change his golf swing. So even if there are certain movements in Cam's golf swing that they'd want to work on, it's most likely more important to build the skill for his level. If he just keeps on doing what he does and starts to improve his driving just a little bit, then he's going to be extremely tough to beat. He's already one of the best players in the world, and if he continues to refine and hone his skill level, no one's going to touch this man.